Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Freaksy and in today's video I want to talk to you about the 150 plus hours I spent in the Oblivion Remaster. Being a completely fresh experience for me as Skyrim was my first Elder Scrolls title, I'd never played the original Oblivion game back in the day, so for me this is going to be a totally blind experience. And what I really wanted to know about this is, was this remaster just a fresh coat of paint over the same old problems that Oblivion faced in the past, or had Bethesda actually started to fix problems and make a better overall gaming experience, or is this just another way to buy time for fans after messes and mistakes made with previous titles such as Redfall and Starfield? So this video is about my playthrough, how I built my character, what I loved and hated about the game. So if you're somebody who is thinking about picking up this game, or somebody who is just interested in the Elder Scrolls experience and hearing people's opinions on the game, I think this is a video that you guys will hopefully definitely enjoy listening to. So I thought the best chronological way I could talk about my playthrough was to start with the build I went for when playing through this game. As my first Elder Scrolls game was Skyrim, I thought it was best to go as a Nord, as I basically am a Nord, as the first game I played for was Skyrim and they all came from there as well. And I went for a more balanced hybrid build. I decided that I wanted to experience all the different forms of combat in one run, rather than having to kind of specify into stealth or being a pure mage or something like this. And then if I wanted to experience a different form of combat, I'd then have to kind of start a whole new playthrough and try a different sort of way of playing. So I thought the way I went for it, kind of doing a little bit of swords, a little bit of two-handed, a little bit of one-handed, a little bit of magic, a little bit of stealth and light armor, and a little bit of heavy armor as well, and kind of trying to experience all the different sort of ways of playing, so I could really get a vast overview of the whole game. And I really can see how all of the kind of the mechanics and all the combat styles, how they all filtered into Skyrim and obviously the future games in the series as well, and can definitely see how things were adapted and taken from this to kind of make the games like Skyrim even better. So now with my build explained, I thought before I go through the positives and negatives I had around the remaster, that I would discuss the order that I actually ran through the game in, as I thought it would be important for context later down the road, explaining the different positives and negatives I did have. So after leaving the prison in the main capital city, I didn't actually go straight away to find Martin in the main story. I firstly started by, I found the Thieves Guild firstly. They were the first guild I did find, so I started to progress with their storyline until I had some issues, which meant I had to progress on to a different part of the game. I then started doing the Mage Guild, where I finished that full storyline and became the Archmage. I then progressed on from there to join the Thieves Guild and play through that storyline. I then moved fourthly onto the Dark Brotherhood. I have to say this was one of my more favoured storylines within the whole game. I then moved on to play in the arena. I unfortunately wish that the arena in the capital, I wish I did this before I even did the Fighters Guild, but obviously that's in retrospect now, and I didn't really go for a specific order. I just did it in the order I found things, but I would have liked to have fought that at a lower level. But I appreciate that I did have a lot of fun fighting some of the higher level enemies when I got to this part of the game. Before moving on to the DLCs and the main story, I did try to do some Daedric quests as well to kind of get some more powerful items to help me fight through these two parts of the games. DLC 1 I then moved on to, and I had a good time playing, but unfortunately, similar to the Fighters Guild, I did have some issues with DLC 2 again, which I'll cover across in later on in this video. And then finally, last but not least, I did finish off by playing through the main story and enjoying the last part of the story before then putting the game down to make this sort of review of things for you guys. Okay, so now you guys kind of understand more how I played through the game chronologically. I thought now I could explain to you more of the negatives and the bugs that I had before moving on to some of the positives and some of the things I enjoyed about the game. So firstly, the first issue I did encounter was with the Fighters Guild. This was an issue that I found very frustrating, as kind of after I first got out of the prison in the main story and went off, this was actually the first thing I decided to kind of try and do and participate through to the end. So it was very frustrating that kind of this sort of bug I found so early on, and it made me kind of put the game down for a few days and take a break and do something else, as it was very frustrating that kind of, you put this brand new coat of paint on, but even like when I was doing my research, even people playing the original Oblivion, this Fighters Guild bug was still the same thing, where, to explain it to you simply, was basically there are 3 members of the guild in each city that you go and you speak to and they give you quests, and because of the order I did these quests in, unfortunately it didn't register that I did one of the quests, even though it's completed in my log. and so it wouldn't give me the next dialogue option for one of the members, meaning I can't rank up, meaning I was stuck in this sort of infinite loop, which is very frustrating, as I was kind of like 2 to 3 hours at least into this sort of guild. So I really wish that I got to see the end reward, and especially because they have this whole new fancy coat of paint that they put on it. Why could they have not put more time into fixing pre-existing bugs that it's very obvious if they did their research they knew that would have happened already? But yeah, kind of that was just the most frustrating of them all because it was so early on. But kind of moving on to the next issue. So the next two issues that I actually had were both related to the fast travel function. First, you started with the Grey Fox's mask that you get through completing the Thieves Guild. So I did play through the Mages Guild and the Thieves Guild, both with no issues after the issues I did have with the Fighters Guild. But when I got the Grey Fox's mask, it wasn't like a major issue, but something that I did find was happening quite a lot was, let's say if I took the mask off in a city, not even a busy one, even if kind of it would aggro all of the guards for some reason, and all of the guards would run to me, but instead of trying to arrest me or fight me as I kind of had the mask off now, they would just speak to me and then run away again. This was only frustrating when I was trying to fast travel somewhere, and it kind of required, even if the guard was like 300-400 meters away, couldn't see me, they'd still run up to me and want to talk to me. So sometimes I'd have to wait ages for the guards to come up to me to then actually have to fast travel. It's a very small thing, but even if like I ran out of the city and ran a couple of 100 meters away, the guards would still follow me to say this message sort of thing. But sometimes it would take them ages to find me, which was very frustrating from a fast travel perspective, especially because the horse capabilities aren't as good as they are for running around and going around on foot like in Skyrim. The other fast travel bug that I had was kind of more combat related, and especially when there was nobody around, and kind of even if I ran sort of 500 yards away, similar to the Grey Fox mask, I still never got the ability to fast travel away. It would take so long for the red dots to disappear, even though they weren't chasing me or trying to attack me, and sometimes it wasn't even obvious who I was trying to fight. And so kind of, obviously again, it's a small thing, but it's still very frustrating that kind of when you're trying to get around maps and places so vast that you have to fight these sort of issues and fight the game in a sense, which isn't great again, especially when they had similar issues again in the original game, I think. So, issue number 4, or I wouldn't really call it more of an issue, and more something that I really just hated in the game, was vampirism. This was horrific. This was one of the worst things that I've ever had to get rid of. There are a couple of different options I had to research online to figure out how, but any method that I found was just like painstakingly rubbish, and just, being having to, when you finally transform into a vampire, nobody will talk to you, you get burnt, damage in the sun, you can only go around at night. Like, it just took so long to get rid of it. I get that you can do playthroughs and there are buffs and different builds for it, but just because of the way I was trying to play, it was so painful and slow to get rid of, and having to reload saves to try and stop being a vampire and do things quicker so I could kind of stop the it spreading and wasting materials trying to fix it. So it didn't ruin the game for me, but it was like a few hours in there where I really wasn't enjoying it, and I had to put the game down again for a day or two. But I kind of got back to it after that, and there was only one other major issue that I found with the game, which was with DLC 2. So after I finished DLC 1, I enjoyed it a lot. I moved on to DLC 2, which, I actually started to enjoy even more. I thought it was quite an eccentric sort of background. It really changed the vibe and the atmosphere of the game and took it in a direction that I really liked, something very different. I thought it was a very out there DLC, even compared to Skyrim-esque DLCs. None of them really pushed boundaries in the way this one did. I really enjoyed it, until unfortunately I got, again, quite a few hours into the DLC like I did with the Fighters Guild. But this time the issue was when I was in one of the dungeons, I'd walk down this set of stairs and it would just be into the void. Like, if I jumped into this like void I could see under the map, I would just be falling through the floor until I died. Unfortunately, I tried to reload the save in the dungeon, outside of the dungeon, like an hour before, and I had no luck. I still had the same issues where I was, having this area which just wouldn't load, meaning I couldn't finish the DLC, which is quite frustrating considering, 2 of the major 6 or 7 storylines that I did do, I couldn't fully finish due to, major issues, which I assume this is a new issue because the DLC and the way they've changed the map and stuff. But there was an old existing issue with the Fighters Guild as well, and it's just, I get that they're trying to do something great with fan service here, but maybe have released it 6 months later and not have had all these bugs. For example, nobody knew this was come out, they shadow dropped it, so why wouldn't you just make sure it was perfect before you release something like this, when there's bugs that you haven't even bothered to even fix or even try and address for the people. So guys, now to try and uplift the video a little bit, I'm going to move on to the things I actually enjoyed about the game. You know, I did really enjoy the whole game. Obviously, you know, there was the bugs and stuff, but I really did have an overall great experience. You know, it's a really great long game that you can go and do what you want in the order you want, and I loved it. And obviously, I love Skyrim, so there was going to be a good chance I was going to like this game, which I very much did. And if you know you're somebody who likes a similar sort of game to this, you will really enjoy this and get your money's worth out of it. Definitely, I played it on the Game Pass, so it was something that I got really good value for, because I paid for 3 months and I played that and I played Indiana Jones. So kind of for the £30 I paid, I got very good value for money to be able to play both of them. So with the stuff I actually enjoyed, firstly with the Mages Guild, I really enjoyed the rewards they got. I really enjoyed the Staff of Worms. I thought the concept was really cool, and you know, they didn't really recreate or try anything like that in Skyrim from what I can remember anyway. The Thieves Guild, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the concept again of the Grey Fox's mask. There was nothing similar to this in Skyrim, so it was something really good. Despite the bug I spoke about before, it was still a really useful, especially when getting into those storylines where you are trying to be more of a bad person and be on the wrong side of the law. It is a very useful tool to have. Same for the Dark Brotherhood. Again, it was a lot more fun than the other storylines. I think it definitely was my favourite one out of all of them. I really enjoyed it. It was really good. Definitely. And finally, last two things, moving on to the arena. I definitely enjoyed the arena a lot. I wish that you was kind of pushed more towards the arena at the start to kind of show you different type of things that you're going to be fighting against, and you know, practicing fighting mechanics and that sort of stuff. But I did just stumble upon it after completing a few of the storylines, and it was still really good fun despite having it early. Definitely Daedric Crest as well. I enjoyed the way you had to kind of use a sacrifice and find different things to do the different challenges or the different missions to get these unique weapons and unique items. I was really happy and I enjoyed all of it. I did also enjoy the kind of scalability of things as well, and you know, for example, when I hit a higher level I was finding things like mundane rings and stuff like that, and I thought I did see a lot of people comment and say that there was issues with the scaling of things, and you'll get like after a while it's just going to get too hard. But I never found that, to be honest. The whole time I found that kind of things scaled very well, and there was only occasional times where I ran into a building or a place and there was something that would one-shot me, for example. And finally, the thing I enjoyed the most was definitely the visuals. Obviously, this was the big selling point that they did make the game around. It was an incredible game, I have to say. The lighting, every area, you know, they didn't miss any details or anything like that. I thought everything was really well done, and you know, it really puts me really excited for the future of the next Elder Scrolls games, and you know, a bit of like fan justice, I guess, after some of the poor performances they've had at Bethesda with some recent games in the past. So, why does this all even actually really matter, and what is the context of why Bethesda really needed to have this game as a big hit? After, you know, poor performances from releases such as Redfall and Starfield, I played Starfield myself and I really didn't enjoy it, and Redfall I've heard lots of bad things about. They really needed to release some games or produce some games that are going to get people back on the side. And I definitely think this remaster, where you know it's not just your everyday remaster, they haven't just upgraded the graphics a little bit, they've rebuilt everything from the ground up. And as I say, there was a few issues and bugs, but it wasn't something that stopped me putting the game down, and it was still a really, really enjoyable experience. And I think that was the important thing, to get fans back on side. And I think definitely with releases of games like this, and you know, incredible performances from games like the Indiana Jones and the Golden Circle, which is another game that I really enjoyed playing as well, I think that they are getting people back on side, and you know, they really are looking to progress forward in the future and put this error in the past of poor performing games and maybe kind of underbaking things and releasing things too early that maybe needed a bit more work. I definitely think that definitely as well, the price and value for the game. I played this game on the Game Pass, so paid nothing for it really either. And I think even now, around October, September, the game is around £35 to £40. So I definitely think that it is something worth picking up, and I think that they priced it really well, considering, you know, £50 on release this day and age is a very cheap game compared to, you know, it should be normally around £60-70 for AAA games like this. Even if it is a remaster, you know, it's a brand new whole release. They did all of the menus and everything again. You're really going to get your value. You're going to get 100+ hours of this game. So I would, you know, really recommend trying it out if you're somebody who's maybe fell out of love with Bethesda or think that they've, you know, lost their ways. This definitely shows that they're trying to get the fans back on side, and it's really important to try and get that to happen and get people back on side is, you know, they're going to be wanting to start to develop the next Elder Scrolls game soon, and they're going to want to develop hype. And I think this game was a really good way, even though it's years out, to start that, definitely. So, my final overall verdict, guys. The Oblivion Remaster, 100% worth playing. I appreciate I have spoke about a lot of different bugs, and, you know, there are a lot of different issues, and I'm sure that they're going to patch and hopefully fix some of them along the time, even from when I probably finish the game. So recording this video, some of these bugs are probably already fixed, hopefully. But, you know, I feel they still tried really hard to produce something here at a good price point that, you know, really was akin to the actual original game. Was still kind of modernizing and making some sort of aspects of it still feel a bit better and not as old as what it would have been feeling if they just, you know, slapped some new graphics on it, but, you know, not trying to change the menus or anything like that. So I think that it's, you know, something really good, and especially, you know, that they released it on Game Pass as well straight away, which is really great for Xbox or PC players. So I really think that, you know, is something that Bethesda can be proud of, and, you know, I really hope that they can keep up this in the future, as we really need this next Elder Scrolls game to be as good as possible, as, you know, it's going to be a generational game, 100%. Overall, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed listening to my topic and enjoyed listening to my opinions on the Oblivion Remaster. I'm going to be covering all sorts of different video game topics in the future, so, you know, if you enjoyed talking about Bethesda games or just video games in general, please, you know, let me know what you thought, if you've played through the game yourself, if you agree or disagree with anything I have said. But either way, I really appreciate you guys watching, and if you could, you know, like and subscribe if you really did enjoy the video that much, it'd be very much appreciated. Again, thank you very much for watching. It has been Freaksy, and I hope to catch you again very, very soon. Thank you.